What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for a match review stream. Tottenham 0, Aston Villa 2 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday. And where do we start?
That's all we got time for, people.
Where do we start with what went wrong yesterday? Because it's a common theme now. Week in, week out, we're throwing out these performances. I mean, it's hard to see when you look at the outlay of the season so far. You can probably count on one hand how many games we've played well for 90 minutes. And yesterday was no different. First half, I thought we were all right in the first half without creating too much, had a fair amount of control within the game. We had that shot cleared off the line from Harry Kane. And at half time, I was thinking, you know, we got this game and we can go on second half, push on like we usually do in the second half and get the win. Second half comes, Lloris makes that absolute howler. We go 1-0 down and heads drop. And we can't, there was just no way back into the game. It was like, you know, under Jose Mourinho, every time we went 1-0 down or every time, you know, we would start well in games and the other team would score and then heads would just drop and there was just no way back into the game after that. I got that sense of in the game yesterday.
Yeah, and it hasn't been the case usually, usually under Conte anyway, when we do concede the first goal or have a poor opening to the game. We usually are, even if we don't end up coming back and getting any points, for example, like Liverpool or some other games, at least we give it a really good fight. And, you know,
and the fighting spirit is there.
Yeah, well, at least you see, like, there were moments where we could have got back in the game and there's something to cling on to where you're like, if we just didn't make those mistakes, we could have got back in the game. And there's always, like, that fight. Or there's a question mark in my head is like, for especially over the last 10 games or so, it's like, what is the real Tottenham under Conte? Is it the one that keeps going down early and keeps having sloppy starts, or is it the one that shows good character, fights back in the second half, that usually creates a lot of chances, usually pens the opposition back and has a good ending to the game, and then usually, you know, has good fitness? But yesterday was you know, after yesterday, and you're thinking to some of the other games that we've lost, like, you know, Man United away, where it was like some really shocking performances and really done tactically. Like, you do start to think maybe Tottenham under Conte at the moment is more the one that is getting tactically outdone right now by teams and going behind very early. And it does worry me a bit when you hear players like Kulusevski and some other players like Kane as well saying how, you know, obviously we don't want to start this way, and if we knew why we were doing it, or, you know, we could change it. But at the moment, it's about, you know, just going back on the training ground and trying harder and figuring out why that keeps happening. But the fact that they seem to be at a loss as to why we are starting games in that way is worrying. But yesterday it was a bit different. First half was a game I would say we were in control of.
We are creating too much.
Yeah. We didn't create too many clear-cut opportunities. Neither did Villa. I think we had more of the ball than Aston Villa. We were playing the majority of the game in their half. Obviously, there was maybe a couple of openings. Longley played a really good through ball to Perisic, rounded the keeper, and obviously his cross went to Kane and he headed off the line. We had some set pieces which we didn't really make the most of. Son had a free kick on the left-hand side which went straight to the keeper's hands. It was actually amazing. I was reading today, Kane had to wait until the 20th minute to have his first
19th,
touch.
yeah, it was crazy.
How mad is that?
Crazy, I know.
That's unheard of, to be so uninvolved in the game. 20th minute, that's pretty insane. But it was a game where we had Villa at arm's length. They didn't really look like they were going to hurt us, and if anyone was going to score, I guess it looked like Tottenham, but it wasn't really like anyone looked like scoring in that first half, to be honest. And then second half, you expect Tottenham to come out firing. We looked to force the issue, you know, the first few minutes, but out of nothing, a long-range shot from Douglas Luiz, really bad spillage from Hugo Lloris, like terrible mistake. Should have hung onto the ball or should have parried it out wide. Do not do what he does and parry it straight into the danger zone where Ollie Watkins is waiting. He gets it to Buendia and it's 1-0.
But for such an experienced keeper, just been to the World Cup with France, just got to the World Cup final 4 years back. Before that, he just won the World Cup as captain. I mean, how can he keep making these sloppy errors with someone of his experience should know either catch that or palm it to the side. I don't get it.
It's inexcusable for someone of Hugo Lloris's career and his experience, and I completely agree. He will obviously be unhappy with himself. It was really, really poor from Hugo Lloris. That is a mistake which is needless, unnecessary, and it really put us under pressure. Obviously, again, made it the 10th game in a row where we conceded the first goal, and that trend is obviously very, very worrying. And after the goal went in, our confidence definitely seemed to drop. We stopped really looking like getting back in the game or forcing the issue. We had maybe one more chance with Perisic after a good ball from Basuma. Perisic with a nice touch, probably our best chance of the game. He blazed it over the bar from a promising position. Brian Hill was taken off after an hour after some bright spins and looking tricky. In the end, was ineffective. We struggled to get a foothold in the game, and also once we conceded, I think it was on the 66th minute, that was it, they made a change. He took off Leon Bailey, put on Matt Cash and moved to a back three, put Ashley on right centre back, moved Matt Cash to right wing back, and from that point on they really dominated in the midfield, and we were getting caught time and time again. It was evidence when Basuma got booked for because Kamara was getting the wrong side of him. Who, by the way, I was very impressed with Kamara. He played really well. I have to say he looked really good in the middle there. But he got booked, and that was he got booked in the 59th minute. That was like a sign of things to come, because they kept finding space in the middle. All of a sudden, they were started to create chances on the counter attack. And when they scored, it wasn't a surprise, because it was the trend of what was happening in the game. They were counter-attacking. We had no options going forward, and they were just going right through the heart of our midfield at this point, and we were getting outnumbered. And then on the counter-attack, we were getting done. Ollie Watkins was stretching us. As we say, Kamara, Buendia, McGinn were all getting wrong side. And then obviously McGinn ends up connecting with Douglas Luiz, and they get the second goal. And at 2-0.
Really well worked goal, by the way, that second goal from Villa.
Yeah, and they'll get picking up all kinds of pockets of space, which they're having a lot of luck. They did really well finding those spaces after that tactical switch. And the disappointing thing is they made a switch and we had no answer to it. Our answer was bring on Emerson Royale, right wing back, which, by the way, got some reaction from the crowd when that happened, some boos. Bring on Ryan Sessegnon at left wing back and put Perisic closer up. And I thought Perisic became even more ineffective once he moved further forward, in my opinion.
He moved over to the right, and we just didn't see him after he moved over to the right, literally.
Yeah. We brought Jed Spence on for 2 minutes to play right winger. We brought Ollie Skip on in centre mid. There was no options to change the game. Couldn't change formation.
You're looking at the bench yesterday. We had, I think it was 5 or 6 defenders and wing backs, and 2 defensive midfielders on the bench yesterday. And it's just like, how many times are we going to go into a season? How many times are we going to look at the bench? How many times are we going to say this thing constantly? No options from the bench. The squad isn't there. The squad isn't good enough. 4 years ago, I mean, look, we'll get into all of this in a bit, but it's just not good enough, the state of the squad. It's not good enough, the options that we have on the bench to change games. You can't go into every single game using the same system, the same personnel, the same tactics. When it's not working, we have nothing to change it to. Nothing.
And that's the problem. Obviously, the counter argument would say, well, we had Kulusevski out, we had Richarlison out. If they're both fit, then we would have options on the bench to change it. But even then, I mean, it would have one option, but you can't keep relying on everyone staying fit all the time. You need to have a deep squad, and we just don't have that. It's just very, very thin at the moment. And
that was why it was all right. And that's why it was right second part of last season, by the way, why we look so good. 1 game a week, very lucky with no injuries. And now the injuries are starting to mount up, and we've got Champions League football, we've got the cups as well, and all that kind of stuff. We're looking completely out on our legs. And when you're comparing us to the other top 6 sides, we are miles away. We are literally miles away.
And at the moment as well, it doesn't help that our second best attacker, or the best attacker last season, Son, and just can't get on the score sheet at the moment. He's looking lost to confidence.
Yeah.
his touch is looking off it. He had that moment in the first half. He loses the ball inside his own half. He runs back and puts a tackle in, and then immediately takes off his mask and throws it to the side. And you're thinking, all right, maybe Sonny is getting rid of the shackles. Maybe I hope this can be a turning point into just taking off a mask. But unfortunately for him, didn't really help him. It was he continued to frustrate, wasn't able to really find those spaces, and he's been struggling all season, Heung-min Son, and it's worrying. I have to say, it's very, very worrying where he's going to get his form back. We all thought that hat-trick against Leicester would be the turning point, but it hasn't seemed to help him. He hasn't been good. Obviously, Kane, I thought yesterday was really bad, like a really bad off day for him. Albeit he has been scoring goals all season, but yesterday's performance, it seemed lazy. Like it seemed like a lot of the time he would get the ball when either he would be stuck up front and wouldn't touch the ball for 20 minutes, which he didn't, or when he came deep, he was picking up the ball, and it seemed as though he was just playing lazy long passes to no one, always trying to find a Hollywood pass in behind, and more often than not they would be cut out and they would be easily read.
And there was that one moment where he had the perfect opportunity to play Kane in on goal, the perfect opportunity, and he overhits the pass, and that just encapsulated what Son's going through for majority of this season.
Yeah, they weren't linking up together whatsoever. In terms of the back three, they all got booked in the first half, rightly or wrongly. I thought a few of them were a bit harsh, but I don't know whether that hurt them in the second half, like their ability to snuff out some of these counter-attacks, but they were getting run ragged in that second half, our back three, and they weren't really able to help the team going forward, and defensively in the second half they were a bit all over the place. The wing-backs, Perisic and Doherty, weren't getting forward in the positions enough, weren't really able to influence the attack, and the midfield kept getting overrun. And when we did get the ball, we were moving it very slowly, very lethargically, just moving it side to side with no penetration. There were a couple of moments where we played some quick football in and around the penalty area, where a good pass in the final pass would have been some good team goals, but it went against us, and those moments were few and far between. You have to be trying those things 6, 7, 8 times a game, and it seems like we're trying them once or twice, and that's it.
But it shows we have it in us to get it on the ground, play some quick football, hurt the opposition. But this team just looks so lost at the moment, so bereft of confidence. And I don't know what it's down to, because you've got good players on the pitch there. You've got Højbjerg and Bissouma in the middle who are good players. Both of them played poorly, in my opinion. I thought Bissouma was probably the better of the two. But Højbjerg, he's like a bull in a china shop sometimes. When he doesn't have a good game, it is really bad, because his passing was just so off yesterday. And every time he got the ball, I felt like we lost it. Bissouma did kind of grow a little bit in the game, but still nowhere near good enough for Bissouma in the middle, in midfield too. Like you say, the wing backs I don't think were good enough, albeit Doherty did make that one amazing challenge to save a goal. The back three, Longley was all right for the most part, but he got completely bullied by Watkins at the end, and that should have been a goal there to make it 3-0. And I just don't know. I just don't know with this team anymore. Kane and Son, completely anonymous yesterday. Bryan Hill, bless his little heart, because the guy just put so much effort into that game yesterday, but he was the smallest man on the pitch by some way. And every time he gets the ball, he just, a little nudge and he goes flying. He goes absolutely flying, and you can't fault his effort, can you? You just cannot fault his effort, but he's just a kid playing a man's game at the moment.
And he gives 100%, but it's like any time he gets anywhere close to someone, he just gets out-muscled the ball, so he needs space. He needs to be further away from the opposition, because he gives the opposition, any defender, an inch, and all of a sudden the ball's lost. And he tried his best, and maybe it's something he just needs game time. He needs a run of games. You remember, this is his first start in a Premier League game yesterday, and was taken off after an hour. But yeah, he tried his best, but it was ineffective. That's reality.
The only positive that you can take away from that game yesterday was the return of Cuti Romero. pretty much. Like, what else can you tell me that was good on that pitch yesterday? Romero was brilliant throughout, especially in the first half, in my opinion. And I'll tell you what, the one player that did impress me was Pape Matar when he came on. I thought he looked good. Some flashes of some nice passing. He kept the ball moving. He was the one that, as well, that was looking a bit positive when coming on off the bench yesterday. But apart from those two, there was just nothing on that pitch to tell me that we can go and win at Palace next week.
Yeah, it was... it's hard to pick any positive, especially after that kind of display where the whole team seemed to be off it. It's, as Ali Gold, I was just listening to me, said, you know, we just looked hungover. Like it was as if we'd had like a late night last night, and it was New Year's Eve, but as if we'd been up all night partying or drinking and then trying to play a Premier League game at 2:00. And Villa just looked so much sharper than us, even though in the first half they didn't seem too much of a threat. They were still looking sharper and more energetic than us throughout the game, and they were running beyond us. Like, you know, as like early in the game, you know, there's a one-on-one sprint between Son and Young's out sprinting him. Like it was just completely a very bad day at the office, and it led to us a lot of very big questions, which we'll get into shortly. But in terms of where this leaves us in the league, not great. 5th in the league at the moment, above Liverpool only because they have a game in hand. We're 2 points ahead of them.
They can go above us tonight, by the way.
They'll probably go above us with a win tonight away at Brentford. If they look, there's no guarantees they win, but it's going to be, look, if they do win, they go above us tonight. Top 4. Still in the race, but it's looking further and further away with each performance.
It is, but you know, at this stage last season as well, you would have said top 4 was looking very bleak as well. And then we made those signings in January, and it really pushed us on to get that top 4. Yeah,
the difference is now a lot of teams have their act together. Rather than last season, you know, United were nowhere under Ragnick. Arsenal were good under Arteta, but not as good as they are this season. Newcastle were never going to get top 4 last season.
It's true, but you had Liverpool there, you had Chelsea there as well.
Liverpool, and they finished in the top 4, and now they're outside. That's even more worrying, in my opinion, because you think Liverpool and Chelsea are now outside the top 4, and they're going to make a good go of it. You see what money Chelsea is spending right now. I'm sure under Potter, they might not get top 4 this season, but they're going to make a good go of it. We know Liverpool...
I think they will get top 4.
I mean, there's so many teams who
oh, sorry. I was thinking of Newcastle, but Chelsea.
Liverpool got Gakpo now. Their form seems to be returning as well. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be so much harder this year to get top 4 than it was last season. You know, even top 6 is going to be hard. Let alone top 4. This rate, the way we're going. As much as I believe in Conte and a lot of the players. Right now, we're stuttering badly. And if you look at the form and just the way we're playing, the trends doesn't look good for us. And although we've put ourselves in a position where we can still fight for top 4, I don't know where the performances are getting worse. That's the worrying thing. You tried to paper over the cracks by getting some wins. We got a last-minute winner against Bournemouth. We got a last-minute winner against Leeds. These wins have kept us just about ticking over. If it wasn't for those late goals, though, where would we be right now?
We would probably be.
You know what I mean? Just like how many games that a win if we didn't have those late goals? You know what I mean?
We'd probably be level with the Palaces, the Villas, and the Brentfords around there.
Yeah, I mean, that we've won.
We're talking about, you know, in the early 20s, we'd be.
If it wasn't for those goals, we wouldn't have wins in our last 5. Would be really struggling. So those winners, as much as they felt good at the time,
over the cracks.
They definitely did, because we were 2-0 down against Bournemouth. We were 3-2 down with how long to go against Leeds? 10 minutes to go against Leeds. We were 3-2 down. So we've been just about getting results in those games, and now it's come to a head where we're not getting the rubber to green now. The performances are still the same. And it's really coming back to bite us. It's really coming back to bite us at the moment. And it's led to some big existential questions within this fan base and this team.
It has. And I think that, just to close off the match review, I mean, it was just a case of Spurs not being anywhere near good enough, not having any options to change things, and Villa just wanting it way more than us, and Unai Emery doing a bit of a tactical job on us as well. It's just like Conte as well he's not clear of not having any of the blame. A lot of fans want to blame the hierarchy, and rightly so. But Conte has got to figure out a way how to change things within the game with the options that he does have. And he can't seem to do that at the moment.
Yeah, and he has to take blame for that. I think he definitely has to take blame for our form over the last 10 games. He has to, because we can't. It's not good. The players that he's had at his disposal, yes, they're maybe not good enough for a title challenge and things like that, but it's inexcusable for us to have gone behind. And not only that, we've conceded 2+ goals in the past 7 consecutive games now in the league. That's not good enough. That is not good enough for the team that we have. And I know he showed last season, and it was different circumstances, 1 game a week, but I mean, he has to carry some of the blame in how this team has deteriorated in their levels over the past 10 games, and it's very, very worrying. And some of the football has not been good enough, unfortunately, and he has to carry the can for a lot of that. And the way that Son has become very ineffective, and the fact that these defence are making so many mistakes, he has to take some of the blame. But and there's no getting away from that. Basically, he has to take some of the blame for that. But I think the fans.
Why not? Why not? When you see it's not working yesterday, in the middle of that second half, go to a 3-5-2. We've seen against teams like Leicester. I can't remember the other game that we did it in. When we move it to 3-5-2 in the middle of the game, stick Kane and Sonny up top, and get an extra man in midfield so we can pressure and overload them in midfield. You've seen how that works. So why didn't he do that yesterday?
Because he didn't feel like that was the right move.
It's like something has to change, and he didn't change anything that could positively impact that game yesterday.
Because I guess the change would be put Skip in, have a midfield free
Skip or Sarr, whatever,
or Sarr. But it doesn't exactly equal creation, though, does it?
Like I get that, but like you saw against that Leicester game, as soon as we brought Bissouma into that midfield, made it a 3-5-2, we started creating chances at will in that game. And maybe it could have been the same case yesterday if we brought in a Sarr or a Skip. Hill was doing absolutely nothing. He was running around a lot. Every time he got on the ball, he was being pushed off it. So take off Hill, bring on an extra midfielder, stick Kane and Son up top, and change it somehow, the tactics, because the tactics were clearly not working.
Yeah, and he didn't. And he has to take the blame for that 100%, because he didn't tactically influence the game like Emre did. Because when he made the change, they were 1-0 up, he made the change, and that was it. They were positively getting forward. They were the ones creating the chances, and we had nothing. Conte felt that we were better off sticking with a 3 up top and trying to get it to those front 3 with Perisic, Kane and Son, and trying to make something happen there. And ultimately it didn't work, and we ultimately got tactically outdone. So doesn't mean it doesn't mean that tactically Conte's always like that, but on this game he got it wrong. And I mean, we say got it wrong, we don't know if we would have got back in the game anyway. I feel the midfield 3, that 3-5-2 is more of a formation for when you're leading rather than chasing, and that's usually been the case. When we have changed it positively, we usually have the lead, and then it's a better counter-attacking system in my opinion. And so that's why I think he probably didn't change it. But at the end of the day, he didn't change it, and nothing changed. So he's got to take the blame.
Yeah. Exactly. And you look, there's no one in this situation. There's nobody in this situation that's involved. The players, the owners, and the manager that walks away from this blameless. Everyone needs to take the blame here. But we all know where the number one blame lies, and let's get into that. But that is our match review for the 2-0 loss against Aston Villa at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.